You know, sometimes you don't even plan on buying something, and then you just find out about something, and you discover it, and you're like, whoa, I really like that. I need that. And sometimes that's how it works in my world, that I have no plans on buying something like another headlamp, but you see it and you're like, whoa, that's really cool. And, you know, once you get it in your head, sometimes it's just impossible to get it out of your head, and you just want to acquire that. Luckily, though, most of the things that I want to acquire are very cost effective. So that's been a blessing. But recently, and that means like in the last 2 weeks, I picked up a new headlamp. It's the ThruNite Black Scout Survival Model H01, also known as the BSS H01. And so in this, you know, fairly brief overview, I'm going to go over some of the things about this light. And yeah, overall, I like it a lot. You know, the price is right. All the features and specs are good. I mean, I can't really complain about anything here, so it's good to go. But yeah, it's just surprising how things roll out over time. When you're not expecting it, it's typically like all the cool stuff comes out, and you're like, whoa. And you just wish you saved up a little bit more money for all these little surprises. So if you're ever in a situation that you can't find exactly what you want, just take a break and give it a few weeks, maybe a few months, and you might be surprised. Like what you're really looking for might just pop up, you know, out of the blue. And you're like, whoa, that's exactly what I want. And so there you go. Now, this particular headlamp, this ThruNite BSS H01, has the newer Cree XP G3 cool white LED. Now, this particular LED isn't like brand new, but you know what? It's kind of like the newer standard for a lot of lights right now. So it's kind of replaced the G2, obviously. So it's good. It's a little more efficient from what I can see, and I think a little bit brighter. And this particular headlamp didn't specify the temperature of the light. So, I mean, if I had to guess, it's somewhere between 5,500 and 6,000 Kelvin temperature. I don't see any type of green or blue tint in this light. It's actually a very clean white. I wouldn't go so far to say it's a neutral white by any means. It's probably like one step above neutral white, but it's definitely a clean white light with no tint that I could see. So that was really nice feature. And it does have a TIR lens, a total internal reflection lens, which really helps to give you a nice diffuse, clean output. And so you definitely don't see a hot spot. You don't see halos. There's no artifacts. There's no crazy business going on, funny business with your, light output. So I really like the TIR lens in lights. I have quite a few lights now with a TIR lens, and I kind of look for it anymore. And when I saw that it was on this light, I was like, whoa, let's get this. This is good. So moving along, it has here that the maximum output on turbo mode is 687 lumens, which is pretty incredible for the size of this light. It really is pretty good. And the maximum throw on turbo is supposed to be 298 feet or 91 meters. And as most of us know, in real world testing, you're typically not going to get these numbers, right? Unless you're in a completely dark cave and there's no ambient light. Maybe then you could, but in my real world testing, okay, I typically get about half of what the manufacturer says for the max throw. So, and in this case, it was about the same. I got about 150 feet of visible light that I could see. But once again, if the moon wasn't out so much and the stars weren't so bright where I live, maybe I could see the light a little further, but there's quite a bit of ambient light where I live. So moving along, it does report on turbo. It has a maximum candela of 2080, which is kind of high, really. I'm a little bit impressed by that because, it uses a TIR lens. So the intensity of the light is all the way up to 2080. That kind of surprised me, but it's very cool. It has a one-button switch design, so it's real simple. It's not like you're having to fidget with a bunch of switches and stuff. It includes a rechargeable 16340 battery, And this particular battery, I mean, especially if you don't know much about 16340s, they're really small. I mean, I have a few, and I have a, because I have a few lights that run this battery, but man, I don't really take those batteries out very often. So I just kind of almost forgot about how small that battery is. And it really is small. It has a battery capacity of 650 milliamp hours. So it's not a powerhouse of a battery, but when you pair it up with the interface and with this XP G3 LED from Cree, it does a pretty good job, no complaints there. Because this is a complete kit, it also comes with a micro USB cable and some spare O-rings and some spare USB port covers. I guess you call them like rubber boot covers that go on the side of the light, because you can charge the battery from just using the USB port on the side of the light. So you don't have to take the batteries out, or that's just one battery. You don't have to take the battery out to charge the light. So that's cool. Yeah, moving along here, just as a side note, you can easily charge this light out in the field with a solar charger, a battery bank, a laptop. If you're in your vehicle, you can just plug it into a car charger. I mean, really, when you think about it, anything that really has USB out, you're good to go. A wall charger at the house. Even these days, and I have a few of these emergency weather radios, they have a USB out port now on a lot of them in the back. So that's cool. So you can do, you can recharge this light in a number of fashions. So you don't have to really worry about, how am I going to recharge my light? And if you're in some kind of a situation that you might worry about, like not having the ability to recharge your light, you just bring a few spare batteries. 16340 batteries are really not that expensive. So there you go. The light body is made up of T6061 aircraft grade aluminum, and it does have the Type 3 hard anodized finish, which is really amazing for the price point too. I mean, you got to remember that like the retail price for this light is just under $30. And with coupon, I mean, I was able to get this light for just under $25. So it's pretty freaking great, if you ask me, to have actually Type 3 hard anodized finish. You typically don't see that unless it's a higher level light, a higher quality light. But this is actually a really good quality light. It just happens to be a really high value light. Okay. So the water resistance rating is IPX8, which just means that it can be submerged down to 2 meters, which is pretty incredible, really. And I don't really, see any type of timeline. Typically, they say like an average of like 30 minutes at 2 meters, but they don't really specify. I would probably not, keep it in the water as long as possible. I mean, I would take it out, as soon as you can. I mean, definitely this is not a dive rated light. It's not made to be like scuba diving with, but if you dropped it in water that was 2 meters or less, you should be fine. The impact resistance rating is down to that 1.5 meters. So if you're up, you drop your light, anywhere from 1.5 meters or less, you should be fine. For those interested in the working voltage, the light will work with the voltage as low as 2.6 volts and as high as 4.2 volts. So you got a nice range, 2.6 to 4.2 volts. This particular light, as small as it is, I mean, it has 6 modes of operation. It has Firefly mode, low mode, medium mode, high mode, turbo mode, and SOS mode. It does have a magnetic tail cap, so you can use it in different ways instead of just as a headlamp. The light is very small. It's 66 millimeters long, 21 millimeters wide, 78.5 grams, or that translates out to be 2.76 ounces. And this includes the battery and the head strap. So under 3 ounces for everything. That's really good. So let's go through some numbers here. Let's go through the lumens for each mode and the runtime. So if you were just to run on a fully charged battery, Firefly mode, that would give you a half a lumen for 15 days. On low, it would give you 6 lumens for 60 hours. On medium, it would give you 50 lumens for 7 hours. On high, it will give you 195 lumens for 100 minutes. And once again, you got to remember, this is just running off a small little 16340 battery. It's quite impressive. On turbo, you get 687 lumens for 75 seconds, and then it steps down to protect the LED from, getting overheated. And it steps down to 205 lumens for an additional 85 minutes. Very cool. The SOS mode puts out 174 lumens of light for 4 hours. Pretty cool. It does have some small heat fins located on the rear head of the light. Once again, this is the Black Scout Survival model, and it comes in olive drab coloration, and it also is available in orange as well. And the straps are this woodland camo design. It's very comfortable. It's a very comfortable and soft strap, so very good. The button switch, it turns red when you're charging it, and when it's fully charged, it goes back to blue. If there's some kind of connection problem with, like you didn't put the charging cord or the cable all the way in, it'll have like, I think it's a blinking purple light. But when it's fully charged, it'll turn blue in terms of where the switch button is. So it's very cool. And so I just want to talk about real quickly, though, the built-in battery voltage indicator. I thought that was pretty cool, right? So you don't get the battery voltage indicator when you're in the Firefly mode. So it doesn't come on then. But on pretty much any of the other modes, to my knowledge, when I was playing with it, it came on. And so this is how it is. If it's above, if the battery has above 21% charge, or if it's 21% or above, I should say, charge left, the switch is blue. So I have blue light. And that actually equates to a voltage somewhere between 3 and 4.2 volts. It'll be a blue light indicator saying that you're good to go. Now, when the voltage drops between 2.8 and 3 volts, then it's going to indicate with a red light that the battery voltage is dropped down to a point that it's indicating that there's only between 11 and 20% of the battery left. Now, the light would start to flash red in terms of the actual switch. This is where it's blinking. It'll start flashing red to say that you have 10% or less, and that's a voltage between 2.6 and 2.8 volts is when it does that, when it starts flashing red. So just a heads up on that. I think it's pretty cool that it has a built-in voltage indicator, and so you kind of, you won't get caught off guard if your light just starts going out. You'll kind of know ahead of time, because it'll go from blue to red, and then eventually it'll start to blink red. So you have basically 2 levels of warning, so that's cool. So what kind of uses overall would I use this particular headlamp? Because I know that's kind of what I was thinking about first off. When I saw this light, I was like, that's a very cool light, but what would I do with it? For overnight camping, for 1 or 2 nights, I think you could definitely get away with this on just one battery, on a fully charged battery, for sure. Power outages at the house, I could definitely see using this for that. Maybe you have some kind of breakdown in the vehicle and you need to change a tire. This would be awesome to have in the console or part of an emergency kit in the vehicle. Maybe you're just trying to put together a scout pack for exploring an area. So let's say that you hike into a location, you make camp, and you store your main pack at camp, but you want to explore the area, but it's getting a little bit later in the afternoon, and there is that chance that you could be a few minutes before you could get back, before the sun, before you have any sunlight, right? So maybe you might get caught out in the darkness for a little bit. You could put this in a scout pack so you have something with you, and if that happens, that you run out of sunlight and you're not back at camp, you can use the headlamp to get back to your camp. So hopefully that makes sense. But yeah, basically a scout pack light or a backup light for a bug out bag, a get home bag. I mean, you can do a lot with this. It's a pretty good quality light, actually. So the original advertisements for this light, they said some things that weren't really accurate. And it looks like for the most part, they've changed those things. So I'm not going to make a big deal. But I bought the light under the assumption that it was supposed to come with a pocket clip, and it did not. So I was a little bummed out about that. And I was also under the impression, though, that it had a button switch, lockout feature. And apparently that was a mistake. They put that on there, but it didn't really have that. To lock this light out, you have to do a mechanical turn of the head of the light, about a quarter of a turn, and it will lock the light out so it doesn't come on by accident in a pack or bag or pouch. But yeah, I was kind of bummed out when I found out that it didn't come with the pocket clip and it didn't have a built-in, button switch, means of deactivating or locking out the light. But, it is what it is. I probably wouldn't use this light anyways too much as a pocket light. Because I have, handheld flashlights that would probably do a better job overall. Yeah, it's just one of those things, that, when a manufacturer says that it's going to be a certain way and then they don't deliver, it can be a little bit disappointing. But because I had a good coupon and I got this for just under $25, I really can't complain. I think it's a big bang for the buck. I would recommend this light if you're looking for a small light. And once again, this has been a brief overview of the ThruNite Black Scout Survival Model H01 Headlamp. Thanks for your support.